We've got 20 people in the room, so we'll go ahead and get started. Merry Christmas to you all. Happy Festivus, and whatever it is that you may or may not celebrate. Congratulations. It is December 25th, and I was just sitting here at my computer a little while ago, and I thought, you know something? I got a little bit of time. Let's just jump on and do a live stream. Why shan't we? So, got to say hello to everybody who's checked in so far, including Padre, Mark Miller, David Dominique Fowler, my good friend from Aussie Pink Floyd, blah, 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 says this is an unexpected Christmas present, which I say it's a Festivus miracle. And Mark Miller says, what's on the agenda? There is no agenda. Let's just hang out and talk, have a friendly conversation. And Padre says, of course, Merry Christmas and a sloppy New Year, as the hippies used to say. Johnny Z. Bradley is in the house. Chiefs going to clinch the #1 seed in a little bit. Says Zach. Ralph Peterson, Merry Christmas. Paul Noda, Merry Christmas. Steve, Scott Summers, Mike Hall, Deanna, BBB. That's someone getting really lazy with a screen name, okay? BBB. Yeah, and that's, at least they had to use two hands if they did that properly. P-Mom, Merry Christmas, Steve. Chuck Whitehead, Merry Christmas from Jonesboro, Tennessee. Greetings from Minnesota, Drewski. David Bruce, Happy Christmas. Trent, Merry Christmas. Hap Newsome, Merry Christmas, Steve. GM, that could be Grandmaster or General Motors. Merry Christmas. Woohoo, my Christmas shift just got so much better, says Andrew B. Are you working today? I've had jobs ready to work on Christmas. It can get lonely. I remember being on the radio on Christmas playing music, wondering, is anybody listening? And you often came away with the belief that no one was listening. Carl's Corner, hi, Steve. GH Dave 0113, Merry Christmas. DePaul's checking in as well. And we've got more and more people jumping in the room. Over 200 now. Wow. Old Jarhead, Steve's just checking to see who's paying attention. I did post a note on Facebook. And by the way, did you check out my festive Christmas lights? They are lit. They're just hard to see. I thought it'd be more festive looking, but no, there you go. So a lot of people are checking in, and I appreciate that. And so for those of you who are remembering the problem we had last time I tried to do a live stream, I told you that my microphone had died on me. And that's the old blue Nessie right there. And I think the switch on it broke. And so you'll notice dead center in the screen is my good old trusty Electro Voice RE20. Not the same one that's back there, because I obviously have two of them, because of course I do. But I bought this little device that plugs in the back that you can't see. And I'm still playing with it, so I don't want to hold it up and show it to you. But it's a thing that Shure makes. And it's got an XLR plug on one end, and you plug it in there. And then you take a USB-C cable and stick it in there and run that into the computer. And it recognizes that as a microphone. And so therefore you are hearing me through the wonderful processing of the Electro Voice RE20, the greatest microphone known to man. Well, at least for broadcasters. So, wow, a lot of people checking, 256 people. And by the way, the interesting thing about Christmas is a lot of people do stuff on Christmas Eve, and people do stuff on Christmas Day. And so it just so happens that I hung out last night with my father and my brothers at my dad's house, which is my former childhood home. I got to drive by and see a lot of the old cool stuff, like the gas station I used to work at and that kind of thing. And then later on today, of course, Christmas dinner. But I'm looking at the day going, wait, midday, I got nothing. So here we are. Bunch of more people checking. News now from Los Angeles. Merry Christmas, sir. And to you, my friend, man known only as Jeff. Merry Christmas, everyone. John Hillier. Not John Hiller, but John Hillier from Spokane. I'm pointing that out because there was a famous, very, 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 very good relief pitcher for the Detroit Tigers named John Hiller. Back in the early days of when relief pitchers weren't as big a thing as they are now. Nowadays, you can be a starter and throw like one inning, and they start bringing in relievers for you. So times do change. Old Jarhead checking in from West Branch, Michigan. I suspect some people are checking in from different places because people travel on the holidays, right? Stony Carroll. Merry Christmas, Steve. Love your videos. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. T. Nunn, waiting for kids to wake up. Yep, I'm first. I thought kids got up early on Christmas. I mean, teenagers might not. I remember when I was a little kid, I couldn't sleep in on Christmas Day. Killiam finds the Blue Nessie funny for some odd reason. I'm not quite sure why. Blue is a manufacturer of microphones. They also make a thing called a Blue Yeti, but they call that the Nessie because if you look at it, it kind of looks like it's the profile of that hoax Loch Ness Monster photograph. Although some people still think it's real. Happy Cat 3096, Merry Christmas, Steve. Scooby Style Creations, Meow Christmas. I'm seeing a lot of people whose names I don't recognize. So these are new people. I appreciate that. It's one of the good things, I guess, about doing a live stream on Christmas Day as opposed to just a typical Sunday afternoon. Isaac Bob York, Merry Christmas. And it jumped on me right when I was about to read that too. Hey, Chuck Whitehead, it's my birthday today, big 47. Yeah, Isaac Bob York, Merry Christmas from Sweden. Here we celebrated yesterday already, us pesky Scandinavians. My mother and father went to Finland one year for Christmas and went up to the Arctic Circle to hang out with Santa Claus because everyone knows that Santa Claus is Finnish. And I thought to myself, that'd be kind of a cool thing to say you did, but I asked my mom, I go, wasn't it just dark all the time? Yes, pretty much. So what are you going to do? Did I miss a super chat thanks thingy here somewhere? I think I did. Did I? Wow, there's a lot of traction in this room. If that's a word I can use today. Wow. Thank you to everybody's checking. There's way too many. If I start reading them all, I'll get way behind. Merry Christmas is Aaron Little. Merry Christmas, and to you, my friend. Good Yule, Mr. Steve. Leviticus the Atheist. That's Leviticus the Atheist. It's almost like a superhero. S.J. Sharks Girl. Merry Christmas and happy 12th anniversary, Shay. 12th anniversary. And I lend my congratulations as well to the 12th anniversary of whatever it may be we are anniversarying. T. Nunn says, yeah, good idea before football. There are people out there who wonder about all that football on the holidays, you know. The Lions started playing football on Thanksgiving a long time back. And I know they've added other games since then. But I remember when they did that, and some people thought that was sacrilege. Other people were like, hey, Thanksgiving's going to be fun for once. We have something to do other than sit around a table and argue. Miss Missy's checking in from Syracuse, New York. Merry Christmas. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Crab Donkey says, I missed Sunday. Too many Christmas live streams? Okay, I'm not sure what that means. Joshua Gibson going to eat some ham and prime rib at 2:00. That's the one thing about Christmas dinners is they're often earlier. So you find yourself eating something you wouldn't normally eat at 2:00 in the afternoon. Old Jarhead, go Lions. I've got to apologize. I was saying I do not believe the Lions. I don't trust the Lions. They're going to let us down. And I've been watching what they've been doing lately, and I'm like, wow. Actually, the Lions are quite impressive. So we'll see if they can hang on to that. So Johnny Quest, bah humbug, which of course is a holiday greeting. Blah, blah, blah. I'm very disappointed that the Christmas football games are on Netflix. You're going to start seeing other things get pulled over to Netflix. And that's going to be an issue because it used to be in the old days that at least things like football games, baseball games were on just, your local TV station. And if it's going to be on a pay-per-view channel, it's going to be a whole different thing. Wake up, America, and resist. That I got a ton of coal. A ton of coal. Crab Donkey, college football all day Saturday now. Oh yeah. And what's funny is if you live in California, the first afternoon games in the East, I mean, you got to get up early for them. I remember when I was in law school, I wanted to watch the University of Michigan noon games, and I had to get up early for them. So, Michael Ratliff, Merry Christmas, everyone. Bobby Barnes, Merry Christmas from Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland rocks. Brian Douglas, Merry Christmas from Bahrain. Checking in from Bahrain. It's been a while since I've heard from somebody in Bahrain. Old Jarhead, it's more fun to watch the Lions than it used to be. Oh, that's true. That's true. I mean, I remember I was actually running the board back in the early 80s when they got into a playoff game and they lost. Thurston County's most haunted, a.k.a. TC. Oh, boy, I have company now. Leo G. Doss, Mr. Steve, arrested for laughing at cop in West Virginia. What happened? I don't think I've done a video on that just yet, so I'm not up on that. I apologize. Judy Grum says, I thought coal was illegal. You don't want to burn it to create power, but to fill a stocking with it, you can. And that's something you do. So R. LaCroix 4, and this is the only political question I'm going to answer all day because I don't think we should be talking politics on Christmas Day. Can a new president reverse a presidential pardon? I don't believe so. I believe pardons are permanent. And so, there's a whole issue there, which Woody Murphy, Merry Christmas from Mississippi. George Lackey, Merry Christmas, everyone. R1B1 sounds like a call out during playing Battleship. Good morning from Texas. Michael Johnson, Merry Christmas, Steve. Greetings from Mike in Westland. We'll be driving my Model T today. Really? It's a bit of a cold day to be driving it if you're in Westland. I got 32 degrees right now. I think it's going to be above freezing for most of the day. We've got ground cover, but grass is sticking through the top of it. So a lot of it's going to melt in the next day or two. I think it might actually hit 49 or 50 on Saturday here in Southeast Michigan. Gandu Ganchode says, goal. And I assume that we're supposed to say that like the guy who's the sportscaster does the soccer, the football. Go! And he stretches the word out into like 30 seconds. But of course, he has to because they score goals so seldom in soccer that you've got to kind of celebrate when they do happen. Nick says the turkey is burning. Get back in the kitchen, you lazy law dogs. M. Cole was checking in from Milwaukee and uses an icon that appears to be the state of Wisconsin with a white stripe through it, which could be the kind of thing that the crossing guards wore in elementary school, or it could be a diving flag. And it's probably neither, if I know my ability to guess these things. Debbie Bertram's checking from Bakersfield, California. Jay Klein, Merry Christmas from Cincinnati. I think Jay and blah, blah, blah might be living in a general area near each other. Lowell Crab, Merry Christmas from Iowa. Joshua Gibson says a couple times a year, as many as 50 Model Ts pass my house at once here in Tennessee. Some kind of cruise they do through our rural county of Morgan County. Lewis Browning says there's probably a time when the coal was a good gift because you could stoke a fire with it. People our age and younger have no idea what a pain it was to live in a time before there was electric or gas heat and you had to work on a wood stove or a coal burning furnace. And, by the time morning rolled around, the house was cold. And that was one of those things. Chuck Whitehead, your most memorable Christmas. I don't remember the Christmases themselves. I remember the gifts I got. I remember I got a microscope when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, and it was like, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I remember I got walkie-talkies one year. Walkie-talkies. Probably right around the same time as the CB craze, but walkie-talkies, you get a pair of them and you and your friends can run around the neighborhood and cheat when you play hide and go seek. Wandering Amelzy. I love the random Christmas lights. Yeah, the Christmas lights are draped behind me, and this is a one-time only. They will not be here next live stream. Padre, my truck is almost a Model T with no heat or air conditioning. That'll do it. Kelly Hadley, Merry Christmas. We're not in Memphis, but visiting the very small town in Arkansas of Piggott, just down the street from the Pfeiffer Hemingway home. We wish you a happy new year. That's cool. That's cool. It's always kind of fun to drive around this time of year because there's less traffic, but there's all these celebration type lights up and everybody's generally in a good mood. So Michael Richard, Merry Christmas from Ontario, Canada. Lil Kiwi. Hello, Steve. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? Are you in New Zealand or are you a New Zealander? Because that, of course, we discussed before. Never been there, but I need to get there. Driving Freak, 36 degrees in Great Falls, Montana. No snow on the ground with a high of 45. Daniel Kester's in the house. Are you staying hydrated? I will be. I don't know if we're going to do a full 2 hours today, but I did bring my Gatorade. It's ice cold. We're ready to go. Old Jarhead says the CB in the 70s was our social media. Crab Donkey House in Maine had registers to let kitchen heat into the bedrooms upstairs. Yeah, because heat rises, and so you could actually do that. I owned a house that was built in about 1930, and it actually just had a hole in the ceiling of the living room, and you could look through it, and it had a grate on it, and it was, I assume, designed just to let heat up. There may have been something else there creating heat, but that was kind of an interesting thing. DT254, I've used that ancient technology you speak of, wood burning stoves. On another note, need any moderators? No, thank you. I've got moderators. I shouldn't give a secret away, but I've informed my moderators to lay low. They're like snipers. You won't see them. You won't know what they do because they're in the background. It bothers me when I log on to watch a live stream and I see 8 moderators talking to each other. And I'm like, do you mind if we jump in and say something? Brian Douglas, remember getting a black screen with a red LED Timex watch, which was impossible to see in sunlight in 1980. Yeah, those early digital things like watches or calculators that had the red numbers and stuff. And you're right, I remember that one as well. So what? 184. Merry Christmas from Rockland County, New York. How many subs did you gain this year? Okay, that's an interesting question, which I can actually answer by very quickly checking out my analytics on my thing. And I can say in 2024, I gained 105,270 subs. Now that's this year, not counting the last week. So I'll pick up a few more, but 105,270. And although this is not Thanksgiving, I really feel the need to thank everyone. I really do, because without people subbing the channel, watching the videos, and interacting with me and hanging out with me on a day like today, I'd just be, like I've said before, just a guy sitting in a room talking to himself for some reason. Ron Wade, one of 413. I am Mary. It's Christmas in Flagstaff with new snow on the mountain where it belongs. That's the interesting thing about living near mountains is you can be down here and you see snow up here. It's like, is it going to come down to us? What's it doing up there? I understand how it works, but you know. Mike B, Merry Christmas, Steve. Thanks for the awesome show you put on. My entire family loves it. Mike in Rochelle, Illinois. Rochelle, the musical. Big D's Homestead, Merry Christmas from the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains of eastern Kentucky. Yeah, Appalachian. We tended to say Appalachian, and people say, no, it's a short A, Appalachian. And we don't like to say it that much ever since what they did at the University of Michigan a couple of years ago at the Big House, Appalachian State. One of the low points of the program. Randall Munson says, I still have my pet rocks. Are they free range pet rocks? Or do you still keep them in the little box they came in? Mindbend, what is that gray and black ball on a stick behind you? That thing right there? That is a blue Nessie microphone. That's the microphone I used to use for the live streams that we no longer use because it broke last week. And that's why I'm now using the Electro Voice RE20. Wait, I need to point that directly. There we go. There we go. Mr. Fix at GA, happy Kwanzaa Hanamas, or Festivus for the rest of us. Driving freaks says the temperatures are a lot colder in the higher elevations. Needless to say, the mountains stay snow covered from fall to late spring. Yeah, and there's also a barometric pressure issue. The higher up you go, the lower the barometric pressure. I think. I could be wrong. DeBall says, yes, a young girl's journey from Moscow to Minsk. Rochelle, the musical. 1970 Scout 800. I have David Lane as my attorney. He's from Denver. Have you heard of him? That name rings a bell. It does. Gatita Oso, what was your last resolved case about? I work on a lot of lemon law cases, which is just people buy defective cars and they get bought back under Michigan's lemon law. So Chow Morphy says, greetings and Merry Christmas. When have you ever talked about the Supreme Court justices and their view on decisions made by them? I talk about their decisions when they're important, or when they don't accept cases, which is also not a decision in the same sense, but it's just as important. I hate to get involved in the politics, but sadly, it is very political in terms of we all know this justice leans this way and this justice leans that way. Bob blah blah says, Steve, I would like to check the demographics and the average age of your viewer. I am 69 years old. I actually know the demographics roughly of my audience. And again, it's something I can get off my statistics, my creator app, and it's buried deep in there. But I can tell you that the meaty part of the curve, shall we say, is between like 55 and 65. That's the number one demographic. And then the second and third are the two on each side of that. So it's still a big part of the curve. It's not the biggest demo, but you're right next to it. So my demo is kind of old and it skews male. I probably have 9-to-1 men to female viewers. However, I can tell you that a lot of that is estimates and guesstimates that they do, but I think it's fairly accurate. But they do use that for selling advertising, so that's why they put a lot of work into trying to figure that out. Gatito Osa says, "Oh, I thought you dealt with consumer law in general. Not my practice so much anymore. Now I do almost exclusively lemon law because it is just that it keeps me busy." Yoda Best says, was expecting a more comfortable chair behind you in the studio. Should we tell Yoda Best? Because I don't recognize Yoda Best's names. I'm assuming Yoda Best has never been here before. But the chair was the number one discussion topic until we beat it to death. I sit in the chair for 10 minutes to shoot a video, 12 minutes on a long video. And I don't want to be in a chair like the one I'm in right now, which tempts me to rock around and move and pivot. So, oh boy. But yeah, I'm fine with it. Although I'm thinking about getting one of these chairs here, like the one I'm sitting in right now, and somebody locking it in position. But then I have the problem with the headrest, and I don't like having the headrest block the view of what's behind me, because Lord knows that stuff behind me is stuff people like to look at. Oh boy. Savo says it's a school chair from the 1950s. It looks like one. It's actually a folding chair of the sort you'd see like maybe in the basement of a church, like if they have like a meeting room where they do like banquets or something, and they got a bunch of folding chairs before they had the heavy duty plastic ones. I suspect that's it. T Nunn says, somebody get this man a chair. Ironically, behind me right there is another chair. That's a chair from the Italian Hall disaster. And the anniversary of that was yesterday. So on Christmas Eve, 1913, when the Italian Hall disaster took place. And years later, doing research on the story, somebody gave me that chair and said when they tore the building down, the furniture was still in it. And they went in and grabbed a bunch of chairs. And you know it's real because it's stamped on the back with the name of the society that ran the building. So it's real. It was there. And it's something that I've kept near my set ever since I got it. Occasionally I've had it on camera, but I have it folded up. I don't want anybody to ever sit in it, but it's something that I have because it was there that night. So Tigerman 9951 says, Steve, put on some makeup and a smoking jacket to get more females. No, I think I'd probably have to change topics. I'm not sure how many women log in to hear an attorney joke about things in the news. I don't know. I have no idea. Lewis Browning, of course, is sending me all kinds of stuff for the set, and it rotates in and out. Some of them are smaller items. And so, I hope you can see what they all are. Mr. Fix at GAce's Vice Grip Garage mentioned the Italian Hall disaster on his video this morning. Really? Wow. I had no idea. Most people outside of Michigan don't know much about it. So, Stephen Glover, Merry Christmas, Steve. Love your channel from Steve, Seven Oaks, England. Thank you for checking in. My good friend David Domini Fowler from London checked in at the very, very beginning, at the top, as we say. Gil Getter says, my grandma was at the Italian Hall with two sisters. One died. Do you know the name of the victim? Because I actually have the death certificates for all 73. Now, Debbie King says, Stratocaster girl here. I'm one of your relatively recent followers, just a little more than a year. I really enjoy your podcast. I've learned a lot. Thanks. Well, thank you for being one of 10 or 1 in 10. Mark Wood, Merry Christmas, Steve. Michael Eline, injury attorney. Hey, old jarhead, Semper Fidelis, devil dog. Semper Fidelis, ever faithful. Chuck White has to get a massage chair. I assume that's what you mean as opposed to a message chair. Big Coppisley, like we know what women want. Veronica rocks. I'm a female who loves legal topics too, plus the jokes. I am curious about how people discover anything in the first place, because YouTube tends to push videos at you based on what you've watched. And so I suspect that a lot of guys get my videos pushed at them because I've talked about cars, and a lot of people who like cars watch my videos, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Mr. Art Vandelay, who I believe is my latex salesman. Did you ever see Judge David Fleischer in Texas? Is he the one who wears a suit and a tie but not a robe on the bench? If so, yes, I like him. I like him. Mark Doherty, Merry Christmas. And you, my friend, I recognize the name. Matt Atwar says Louis Rossman may be where he heard about me. Yeah, I was on Louis Rossman's show one time talking about right to repair a while back. Brian Douglas was looking for court cases on YouTube. Stephanie House is an insane amount of true crime. I mention all the time American Greed, and it's a series, but they just stopped making it. I actually corresponded with one of the producers recently, and he goes, "Yeah, we literally the show got canceled. We're done. We're not making any more." And I'm, oh, so Rachel Ray, my boyfriend's obsessed with cars, and I know you from that. I watch because I love legal topics. Okay. Tina, you're my break from young auditors. We got 556 people in the room today. That's impressive. I really wasn't sure. I thought, well, it's a Christmas. A lot of people probably have their computers turned off, maybe even their phones turned off. Wade Pittenger, I think double secret probation is most referenced line in the videos. 0.0. Yeah, double secret probation, for those who don't know, is a reference to Animal House. And I saw Animal House at the theater when it came out. And I went back and saw it several days in a row. Literally, just I would leave the theater with my sides hurting, and I'm like, I got to come back and watch it again tomorrow. And double secret probation is from Animal House. I mean, there's a lot of good lines in the movies. It's like Monty Python's Holy Grail. It's got a lot of good lines in it. But when I say double secret this or double secret that, I know there's a few people out there. Oh my gosh, Animal House. Daniel Crenshaw, I did my family Christmas yesterday. That was always the big debate. Are you a Christmas Eve family or Christmas Day family? Gatita Oso, do you watch the YouTube channel where the creator says start your engines? No, I don't. That doesn't ring a bell, and I apologize. Jay Klein, son, fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life. They gave the dean a whole bunch of really good lines. Maker Mike says, I think you were recommended after I watched Law Talk with Mike. I've actually been on his show one time also. I think he's out of Chicago, but he's from Michigan, strangely enough. Jesse Zink, I've been watching you long enough. I don't remember how I found you. Magnus Nilsson, hello from Sweden. Everybody's talking. Nilsson. Padres, just a flesh wound. Taco Cat says Animal House in the theater was the first movie where he saw a woman's bare chest. That's interesting. They weren't heavily featured in the movie, but there's also a pair of them in Airplane in one of the panic scenes on board the plane. Rick D, not Rick D's, but Rick D. Did you see the video where a guy drove his car into a dealership because they wouldn't take his lemon car back? Yes, I did a video about it. I didn't include that video in my video because I don't do that. But yes, I did a story on that. And the problem is he bought a used car. So I don't most states cars aren't considered lemons, they've been used, they are new. So Mr. Fix It GA says I haven't missed a video in over 5 years now. 5 years. 5 years ago is about when I started making videos regularly. Earlier, prior to that, before that, as non-lawyers would say, the video schedule was kind of haphazard. I'd put up one a week, maybe two a week. D Wood, I first heard of you when I watched a YouTube video on the turbine cars, tuned into you, and the rest is history. And of course, the Canadian Robot Lady is a bonus. Yeah, I did a video on the turbine cars, the first video on my channel. And then, of course, I was on Jay Leno's garage talking about his turbine car. And then, of course, I popped up in the Haggerty documentary that came out a little over a year ago. So every now and then I have somebody send me a link and go, hey, Steve, there's a video about turbine cars. And I'm in it. And I actually had somebody tell me I was wrong about something I said regarding turbine cars. And the person sent me a link to my video and said, watch this video. You'll see that you're wrong. And I wrote him back and said, dude, I'm in the video. That's me. Do you think I disagree with myself? Popo Momo 12. Hey, Mr. Lehto, Merry Christmas. Kurt's Corner checking in from Boulder. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you. It's always good to see the old timers check out, the regulars checking in. Taco Cat, was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Let him go. He's on a roll. I actually saw somebody post that underneath a nonsensical comment on Facebook, and somebody goes, it wasn't the Germans who bombed Pearl Harbor. It was the Japanese. Oh, okay. Soulboo, one thing I've been wondering as a European, why do they call it lemon law? Where does lemon come into play? The term lemon in American English means something that turns out bad that looked good to begin with. And I think somebody meant it in the sense that if you're looking at fruit, you see an orange and an apple and a lemon, you bite into the lemon, it's like, oh, it's sour. You can't do that. And the first reference in print that we know of was a baseball player who got purchased by a team, and a sports writer said, we don't know if he'll turn out to be a lemon or not. But it was already in use by that time. That's, I think, the 1910s or 1920s. But it's an American thing, saying something's a lemon. I think it may have drifted into other countries, but it started out here. So Tomahawk Farms Firewood says, that was a great documentary. Thank you very much. Joan Smith, I'm a car person, found you on VinWiki. My late husband was from Birmingham and we lived in that area for 10 years. So I know many of the places you talk about on your channel. The question is, do you know where in Birmingham he was from? Because I had paper routes, several of them. I know the street names and the addresses of so many homes in Birmingham that it's not just the places I know. I know the streets. Tigerman 99515. Anyone else having streaming problems? I actually did see a glitch on my screen a moment ago. So I wouldn't be surprised. I was hoping that web traffic would be down being Christmas, but I don't know. Don Jackson just checked in with a thumbs up and $5,000 in some other kind of currency. I don't know what that translates into, but I'm suspecting it's going to be like 13 cents. No, I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you very much. I don't care what it is. The more the merrier. But my point is, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, Cool Cats Fishing, 10 Mile, Tennessee, checking in. Merry Christmas. Daniel Kester, I think Heather was the best addition to your channel. Thank you very much. And I know that she'll appreciate that as well. Many people don't know, but Heather is simply a woman in Canada who was watching my videos and sent me a note after I made a couple of radio references. And she said, I worked in radio also. So I think that you and I've got very similar backgrounds. And we're roughly the same age. We both worked at radio stations around the same time, but she was just working in Canada. I was working in the US. And we became friends. And at one point, I just simply asked her if she could do some voiceover work for me. And originally, it was just the introductions. Then it became the outros. And I did an April Fool's video where I had her overdub her voice over me talking a couple years back. A couple other things, but yeah, she's a great friend of the show, great friend of mine. I talked to her quite a bit. So, Steve, have you seen The Jerk? The Jerk? You mean with Steve Martin? Of course. Somebody hates these oil cans. Of course, the Optigrab. I've seen that movie so many times. I saw that at the theaters when it came out. I remember that. I remember that vividly. Oh. Harry Selden says, I think the Edsel is described as having a grill that looked like it had sucked on a lemon. I always thought the grill looked like a toilet seat. Or the weird harness they put on like a donkey that's pulling a plow out in a field. No matter what you looked at, that was a poorly designed car, and they should have tested that better. Scooby Style Creation says, I support the Institute for Justice and the civil rights lawyer, but I have PTSD and can't watch the videos that are posted, but I enjoy your videos often. Thank you very much. You know, and that's the thing. I watch some of these videos and I'm like, it hurts to watch some of the things that happen out there. So D Wood says, Merry Christmas from Niles. Niles, Michigan or Niles, Illinois? But I'm hoping Niles, Michigan, because Niles, Michigan's down here and I get to point at my hand. Activated Complex just stopped by to say Merry Christmas. Thanks for your videos. And Felicem Anima Novum. I'm guessing that's Latin for something. Reasonable guy. Merry Christmas, Stephen with a V. Hey, my brother had a grapefruit tree in his backyard. Somebody has mentioned having a lemon tree, and it just jumped on me again. Oh, Storm Raven says that was pesos. That was about $250. Oh my, that's substantial. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that. I didn't recognize the abbreviation, but I guess Mexico. Okay, I apologize. I was not meaning to belittle the gift. I would not ever do that. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. DePaul says the Edsel grill looked like a part of the female anatomy. Had not heard that one. Don Jackson says $246 US. Oh my, and that is very generous. I do greatly appreciate that. Phil Adkins, have you heard about the Indian dealership that was forced to close down by the state of Delaware, not issuing tags and repeatedly giving paper tags, also not paying liens on trades? I did a video recently about a dealership that got closed down for doing that. So it's not me 07. Merry Christmas, Steve and crew. Michael Eline says Jerk was my dad's favorite comedy, and don't forget King Tut. King Tut was hilarious because that's a song, of course, that Steve Martin did that became a hit. And it was actually, I mean, a novelty song, but at that time, I believe there's all kinds of hubbub about them taking the King Tut exhibition on the road, because normally they just keep it in the British Museum where, you know, where all that Egyptian stuff belongs. I'm joking. Oh. Joe Paquette, Merry Christmas, Steve, and thank you for raising awareness about the Institute for Justice and what they do. Looking for more victories in 2025. Oh, so am I. Yeah, and the thing about the Institute for Justice is, and you know, it's so frustrating. They'll have a case and they'll be prosecuting it, and they get it taken care of, or they win. It goes up on appeal, gets reversed, and the process is so long that it takes forever. And now they've got, I don't know how many cases they've got going at one time, but they've always got all these cases going. It's so hard to keep track of. And they've had some where they had a huge victory, and then it got spun around on appeal, and like, oh, we got to take it up again, you know. So Dan Boyd missed 38 minutes. 38 minutes you can never get back. T Nunn, do a show without the glasses just once, without these? Yeah, but I have a hard time reading the screen. It's too small. So I could get them anti-reflective coated. That would solve a lot of the problems. Johnny Z. Bradley, yes, King Tut, 1979. I remember when he came out on Saturday Night Live and sang it in costume. Wade Pittenger, are pasties served on Christmas? No, they're not a holiday food. They're a working man's everyday food. That's the thing about them is like you wouldn't want to eat pasties every day of the week or anything. At least I wouldn't. Jacob Lokers, Merry Christmas from Manistee, a little bit further up this way. Ron Wade, Merry Christmas from Flagstaff, which is over that way. Silver Mountain first car was a 74 Pontiac Le Mans. My dad had a bunch of Pontiacs. He had a bunch of Pontiac convertibles. My dad loved the convertibles. Chuck Whitehead, planes, trains, and automobiles. Ian Cope-Dog, I saw King Tut when he was roving around at the Smithsonian. Yeah, I never got to see the exhibition. I just remember them singing about it. Dan Boyd, Merry Christmas. Oh, boy. Stanley Gustafson, watching you now somewhat because I can't run the returnables to Meyer on this day off from work. Cheers from a fellow Michiganian, and thank you for using Michiganian. I appreciate that. 1970 Scout 800. I sent my case to the Institute for Justice last month. Here's the thing. You know, they do take cases, but they can't take them all. And I've had some people get very, very angry with me. I got some very, very angry communications from somebody who was mad that I wouldn't make the Institute for Justice take their case. And I said, I don't work there. I support them. I love them. I'll rave about them all day long. I can't make them do anything. They're a law firm. They're an entity that I have nothing to do with other than I support them. And this person got really, really mad at me. And I'm like, I wish I could, but I can't make them take your case. They review cases. They're looking for certain things. And their whole thing is they're not looking to take every case out there because they can't. They handle cases nationwide. It's a lot of logistics just to handle a case that's that important and to do it right. And so, you know, I'm sorry if they don't take your case, but you know, they do take cases and they do good work. And most of the cases they take have impacts on other cases. So even if they don't take your case, a case they're handling might help you with yours somewhere down the road. Daniel Kester, hey, Steve, I bet you have plenty of people arguing about how to say turban. We didn't until now. No, I'm just kidding. Newsbabe says Steve Martin did King Tut on Johnny Carson on roller skates. I didn't see that, but the good news is I bet it's on YouTube. Solbu, what got you to look into the law as a profession initially? Clearly, you love doing it. Believe it or not, I had a friend who's going to law school, and I was just bumbling around directionless in life. And we were discussing something. We had this very, very heated, detailed discussion. And he goes, dude, you should be a lawyer. And I said, huh? And it never even occurred to me that I could do that. And he goes, no, here's what you do. And he laid it out for me like, you know, I could do that. And I did it. And it turns out I really was into it once I understood what it was all about. I had never dealt with lawyers. I didn't know any lawyers. And I know a lot of lawyers who got lawyers in their family. So they grew up knowing what lawyers do. I didn't know what lawyers did. I mean, I defend people, you know, and when I told people I was going to law school, I got asked the question you get asked the most when you're going to law school is, so you're going to defend guilty people? Are you going to defend guilty people? How are you going to do that? Number one, that's if you do criminal work, which I don't do anymore. But number two, they deserve a fair trial, don't they? So Fred Blower says hello from Granville, not the Pontiac Granville. But dude, if you got a Pontiac Granville and lived in it, you could say I'm from Granville, always. Mind bend. If the IFJ was to reach out to you for case help, would you? I would help them any way I can. But I have a sneaky feeling that they think that I do help them by talking about their videos on YouTube, their stories on YouTube. So Doug Jones, Steve Martin's a good banjo player. I've seen him play, and that's, again, he's very, very talented. He used to do all kinds of other stuff, like magic tricks, sleight of hand kind of stuff. So Daniel Kester says Steve Martin did King Tut and Dr. Demento. Angel Wilburn, can you defend me? I don't know what state you're in or what your legal problems are, but I primarily handle lemon law claims. So generally speaking, I don't do a lot of defense work. Ignaz Achenbach says, what's the civil term for guilty then? Liable? Yes. So yeah, exactly. So you sue somebody for something for damages, and they're liable for the damages. So yeah, but it's a parallel, but it's not quite the same. Sometimes I listen to myself say, Merry Christmas. I found you early this year when I needed a break from all the political videos. I'm so glad that you leave politics out of your videos. I try so hard. I really do. Richard Cranium, Merry Christmas from the UP. Steve, hope you have a wonderful day. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan, of course, is you got the Lower Peninsula and the Upper Peninsula. And so then this is the Upper Peninsula, and this is the Keweenaw Peninsula. And I got relatives up there. So Angel Wilburn, Arkansas Insurance. Yeah, so I don't practice law in Arkansas. So you have to find a local attorney. Lawyers are limited to the state in which they're licensed. And most lawyers are only licensed in one state. I know a couple who are multi-state licensed, but that's very unusual. But I don't know any attorneys in Arkansas either. I don't know the law there. And so, I think people say, but Steve, couldn't you come down and do like pro hoc vice where somebody like gets you in about, and I'm like, I don't know the law down there. Like, it wouldn't help me any. It would be so difficult for me to help you when I don't know the law down there. So David K., I'm enjoying Steve Martin and Only Murders in the Building. I watched a couple of those. It's been a little while. Matadwar, how do you prevent personal liability for what you do at work? Depends on what you do at work, I guess. Daniel Kester, hey, Steve, I bet you got others who want to argue you made up a situation. Are you talking about people who want to argue with my hypotheticals? I'll give a hypothetical and say, okay, suppose a man goes to a garage sale, a yard sale, and sees a lamp for sale, and it has a price tag on it that says $5. And the man buys the lamp without exchanging any words with the seller. He simply walks up with the lamp, hands over $5, goes home, and plugs the lamp in, and the lamp does not work. Can that man sue the seller? And the answer, of course, is no. He bought a used lamp at a garage sale, which is being purchased from an individual, therefore it is as is. And if the seller made no statements to him, there couldn't possibly be any warranties. And have people go, what? But no, you're wrong. Because if the seller did this or if the buyer did that. No, in the scenario I gave you, I'm right. If you want to change the facts to make me wrong, you're changing the facts. And I used to write law school exam questions because I taught law school for 10 years. And I'd write a law school question and I'd have students changing the fact. Well, if this, then you can't do that. That's not how it works. Johnny Quest, you should join Vin Wiki at the YouTube off-road games in March. I love Ed Bolian and Vin Wiki. In fact, I've been on his channel 11 times, I believe, and I'm going to be on his channel more times soon. I'm going down in a little while to shoot some more videos. But a lot of people, although I do talk about cars, they don't consider me a car guy in that sense for whatever reason. So, Mac McCurry, great show. Joshua Gibson, do you know of Adam Wade, fellow Michiganian and former bean counter for GM? No, that name does not ring a bell. Does not ring a bell. How does a camera ticket from Andy establish personal jurisdiction over the driver when the civil infraction served first-class mail? Well, you're gonna have to check the rules in the courts on that, because a lot of courts are going to say for a civil infraction you can be served by a first class mail, and the presumption is that you got it. And if you go into court and argue and say you didn't get it, then that's something you could argue. But a lot of courts are going to look at it and go, well, I mean, you're here right now. And I understand a special appearance to get you around that, but I don't know if anybody's actually gotten into that heavily of a fight on the personal jurisdiction of a camera ticket. So, Sniper Merc back on cars for a second. 1968 Buick Electra 225 was my first ride. Loved that thing. Yeah, my brothers and my mom, actually, my mom had a Skylark right around 70-ish. Very, very cool cars. America Uncensored. Merry Christmas, Steve and everyone. Yeah. Padre, the problem with garage sales is they tend to leave the B out of the signs. Garbage sales. Oh boy, I've driven by a few where I'm looking at it going, that can't be anything but a garbage sale. But I understand, I bought that chair right there, that the chair that I sit on when I shoot my videos. I bought that at a literal garage sale about 5 miles from me. I was driving down the street and I go, wait, that little chair there. And it's the only thing I saw that looked interesting. But I stopped and I walked over and said $5. Next question, Steve. If the chair collapsed, could you have sued the seller? The answer is obviously not. No warranty, sold as is. The way I do it, rumor has it you're not a fan of frozen lasagna. Not if they tell me it's going to be cooked. Blah, blah, blah says, why? It turns out we're neighbors. We both live south of the North Pole, which we had a conversation about last live stream. 1970 Scout. My first car was a 1968 Plymouth Fury 3 convertible. I always loved those numbers. Fury 3, Electra 225. I mean, I suppose there probably was a Fury 2, Roman numeral 2. Taco Cat, I'm probably the only one that misses the Ford Pinto and the AMC Pacer. Pacer was a fishbowl on wheels, man. My mom had one. But never was a big fan of American Motors styling. Never was. Gail Watson, I hope this is true. I once put a non-working fridge outside and somebody took it. A few days later, the lady was banging at my door demanding I get her money for all the food that went bad in the fridge. See, that's a great law school question. Because she has even less of a claim. What you should say is, wait, are you the one who stole my refrigerator? Angel Wilburn, what if the chair had previously been recalled by the company? You mean it had an open recall on it? Ant Combus, my first vehicle was a 1972 Datsun pickup. Datsun. Jay Klein, a buddy in high school, had a Pacer. We called it the Flying Fishbowl. Flying? It couldn't have been moving that fast. Doug Jones, Merry Christmas from my igloo in Canada. Cumulus Vape says there was a Fury 1, a Fury 2, and a Fury 3, and Sport Fury, and the VIP, which are next to impossible to get the right trim for your car. And probably not popular enough to where somebody aftermarket makes that stuff. Or maybe they do, I don't know. So, Big Red, first car is a Corvair Corsa. David Palomar says, I'm trying to sue a company who keeps selling me defective products. Nobody can take me seriously because I'm a coyote. And Chevelle U24 says, my first car was a 65 Corvair. So I don't know if I've told the story before, but I recently, about a year ago now, was driving out in the middle of nowhere, driving down a road that I don't drive down very often. And there's a house that nobody lived in and a garage next to it that nobody lived in. And I would see this house every now and then. And one day I drove by and I couldn't stop, and I'm so upset. The garage door was open, and there was a Corvair parked in the garage that had clearly been there for decades. And I drove by a couple more times, and I saw the door open one more time, and the Corvair was there. But I didn't see anybody, and I couldn't stop. And later on, the house got fixed up and sold, and I drove by later, and the garage door is open, and the Corvair is gone. Have no idea what happened to it, but there was a Corvair in this garage that had been just sitting there. And so you never know. You never know about these barn finds, like what could be out there. Old Jarhead, my father's leaving me a restored 1957 T-Bird. Alex D. Rodriguez says AMC did great styling with the AMX. I've seen some AMXs that I like. I forgot what year it is. There's 1 or 2 years of the AMX that I like the ones that Mark Donahue raced. Those are pretty cool. But for the most part, the Gremlins, the Matadors, the Pacers, they had one named after a fish. Help me out here, people. It's hard. I understand the CUDA is named after a fish, sort of, but never was a big fan of the styling department over there. So Dan Boyd, the AMC Rebel Machine. And that, of course, was one of the hopped up performance versions. What was the base model in that? Was that a Matador? Keith Brookshire's first car is a 1964 Mustang. I still own it. But does the title say 64 or 65? Just curious. First car, Javelin SST, Jeff, 1618. AMC Javelin. Yeah. It's a Matador. The base. Old Jarheads, the AMXs didn't age well. Well, it's American-made stuff. Okay. A lot of those cars didn't age well. Chuck Whitehead, I've always loved 1982 Trans Ams in black. My brother had a whole bunch of the second generation Trans Ams that started in 70, went through 73. The ones for several years, they were only available in white or blue. He had a bunch of those. Oh, those are cool cars. Those are cool cars. A non-mouse says, I have a friend who has acres of Metropolitans. Go try to buy a single piece of one from him. Is he one of those guys who doesn't want to part with any of it? It's sad because, I mean, if you follow the automobile archaeologist, Ryan Brutt, B-R-U-T-T, he puts up photographs and videos about barn finds, and he finds these things all over the place. And there's a couple that he checks on because they ain't going anywhere. And there's I believe it's red Dodge Charger Daytona that some guy's got parked next to his barn. It's got weeds growing around. It's been outside for like 20 or 30 years, just sitting there. And it's going to rot into the ground. The guy will never get it running. And I'm sure he's been offered everything under the sun for it, but no, I'm going to fix that one day. So Wade RN, my first car was a 73 Gremlin. I had a Gremlin also that I drove to high school before I had my 69 Dodge Charger. My parents bought it. They owned it, but I drove it. Yeah, I was driving a green Gremlin to school. It's really hard to pull in the parking lot and feel cool in a green Gremlin. Keith Brookshire says typo, it's a 65 Mustang. But the reason I'm asking is that so many people talk about 64 and a half Mustangs because they came out early. And it's like, but correct me if I'm wrong, the title says 65, right? And I mean, a lot of cars come out early. So I'm not quite sure why people get, when I whack that, can you hear it? It's taking me a while to get used to this one because this one gets more in my face than the other one did. Blazer 02 LS, the Rebel was the Rambler AMC model. The Machine was a performance version of that. Okay. Gil Getter, 65 Buick Skylark. With what kind of transmission? Because didn't Buick have that old slush box, like 2-speed automatic? Am I making stuff up now, or is that real? Or was it all a bad dream? Oh, Randall Munson, I go by a 66 Mercury Cyclone GT just rotting into the ground, heartbreaking. You wonder, does it have a drivetrain in it, do you think? Anonmouse says those Metropolitans are being hoarded. Nothing is leaving his possession. He buys new tarps. Well, at least he's putting tarps over them. I've seen him just sitting out in the elements. Oh, boy. Robert Gibson has AMCs. My high school car was a 73 Hornet. Currently have an 89 AMX. Can't picture the 89 AMX. 74 Javelin and a 67 Rambler American. The question I have for you is, do you mind the fact that didn't Dodge just put out a Hornet edition of something recently? Or Stellantis? Oh, boy. MH08 mechanic friend of mine had a Gremlin. Said it was the best car he ever owned. I'm trying to remember what the engine was in the Gremlin. It was not a V8. I think it was a straight 4 or something. All I know is the engine ran fine, but it was just stylistically, it was not that good, I didn't think. Fractional Mateo says, dude, enjoy your holiday. Get off here and fist a bunch of treats. Like I said, I'm between events right now, so this afternoon I got to go someplace. But I'm like, I had a video ready to go up. I'm like, why do a video? I can do a live. We got 600 people in the room. Come on. Frank White, Gremlins were good. 258 straight 6. Yes, okay, it was a straight 6. I don't know why I wasn't thinking it was a straight 6. Blaze Road 2LS, the base engine, 258 6, same they used in the Jeep. Okay. Mac McCurry, my wife is yelling at me to get in the shower. Otherwise, I'd be hanging. Dude, I understand. Wade Pittenger, heaven forbid a Toyota. We were talking about that last night at my Christmas Eve gathering with my brothers and my dad about how we still in my family don't buy foreign cars. And I was trying to explain to my brothers about how I couldn't get that across sometimes on YouTube because so many people are like, what do you mean you don't buy foreign cars? Well, Ford makes cars in Canada and Honda makes cars in America. I'm talking about the badges, okay? But I made one aside like 8 years ago, heaven forbid a Toyota, and I had people freaking out on me. What's wrong with Toyota? Oh boy. Driving Freak, the AMC 232, 258, and the 4-liter were good motors that had a small tendency to blow head gaskets. Shouting at Clouds is straight 6, a good motor. And don't forget the good old Chrysler Slant 6. Those things were bulletproof. Keith Brookshire, if a red Solo Cup signifies a party, what does a green Solo Cup? Well, I thought it was festive. I thought red and green, but I thought I'd go with green because, get kind of sick of the red Solo Cups. I Pity the Fool. Favorite Christmas movie? It's got to be A Christmas Story. Gene Shepard's Christmas Story. Put your eye out, kid. But, we've seen it a million times, right? Dill Pickle's got a straight 6. Cummins in his Ram. Alan Fans, Merry Christmas, Steve, from Pekin, Illinois. Listen to you a lot. I wish there was somebody in our area for Illinois with attorney information like you do. Merry Christmas. There probably are. Got to poke around. Tim Hanley says, I tried to get a heaven forbid plate for my Toyota Camry in Virginia, but it was taken. Oh, that's funny. Can you get 7 letters? You could have gotten BID on that if somebody may have had that also. Jay Klein, BMW still uses straight 6s for a reason. I don't know. Most configurations can be done well. You can find 4 cylinders, straight 6s, straight 8s probably in the old days. I've got a V10 in one of my cars. Concerts, coasters, and nitrous is the Hornet you talking about is just rebadged. Yeah, but the point is that Hornet was a name that people my age would go, oh, the old AMC Hornet, you know. Shouting at clouds says, I think a straight 6 sounds much better than a V6. You mean when you're saying the words out loud or listening to it run? Oh, boy. DePaul had a straight 5 Audi Quattro. 5 cylinders. Talk about an abomination to God. 5-cylinder engine. What? Why not? Turks 1, do you have a favorite law school professor? Yes. We had a professor named Kniprath. George Kniprath. The guy was a genius. The guy was smarter than anybody in the building. And he didn't say it, didn't act like it, but he was. And I've never seen somebody who had command of a topic as well as he did. And he would come into class and he'd have these extensive handwritten notes and he'd drop them on the lectern and walk away from them because he didn't need them. And oh my, the guy was brilliant, but he was also a little bit, he didn't like people goofing off in class or anything. And one day he was talking about a case, and a guy in the front row I knew very, very well had these case notes that are put out by publishers that summarize cases from the law books. And he walked over without any warning and he picked the case notes thing up off the guy's desk and he goes, don't ever bring this pornography into my class. And he threw it at the chalkboard. Oh boy. Aunt Combus, I wouldn't want to work on a W16. Yeah, think about how complicated all of the various gear is, the gear work is in there. Oh boy. Tigerman 99515, what's the displacement on that V10? 488 cubic inches. 488 cubic inches. Each cylinder is almost 50 inches. Oh boy. P. Bilkey, 5-cylinder Chevy Colorado? Really? Wow. It's Isuzu's fault. Well, of course it is. Locked on Law, Cliff's notes for law school are bad. Yeah, I forgot there's this, are they called case notes or something? But they sold them in the bookstore. But it was so funny. He grabs this guy's book and throws it. Oh boy. Dill Pickle, what's the miles per gallon on the Viper? I've never checked it. No idea. Shouting at clouds, do a video on the fake international driver's license scam. I recently saw a pullover video where a cop walks up to a guy's car and the guy hands a license and goes, this allows me to drive in like 249 different countries. Is that what you're talking about? Because I've not seen any articles about that, but Nancy McCormick. Hey, Steve, how are you? From Oregon. I'm doing fine. How are you? Thank you for checking in, my friend. Jeff M. What cars do you currently own? Your make and model. Do you want the VINs also? No, I've got a 99 Viper. It's red with no stripe. I've got a brand new backdraft Cobra replica. It is not an actual Cobra. It's a backdraft replica. The replica has got a Roush Coyote 3rd generation engine in it, aluminum block, aluminum heads, all that stuff. And then I got 2 Ford Explorers. I got an 02 and a 2024. And the 02 I will drive until it literally crumbles into the dirt because that thing runs so good right now. I drive it on rainy days. I'm going to go down dirt roads. If I'm driving locally, going to get my mail, whatever, I'll drive that. But I got to go someplace important. I take the new Explorer. So there you go. Paul Davis, Vipers smiles per mile or grins. Daniel Kester, how about an 18-cylinder radial? Yeah, think about the radial engines, how wacky those were. I understand there's a reason for it, but you look at how complex the engines were on a B-17 bomber. They got 2 rows of those big cylinder jugs. It's just so weird to think about. But there was some time where they kind of working their way through there. Jeff M, nice fleet of vehicles. I've also got a side-by-side ATV that I use for like yard work and stuff. But I might be picking up another car shortly. We'll talk about that. Old Jarhead, I have a good friend that has a supercharged Viper. It's been on magazine covers. I actually met a guy with a supercharged Viper at a car show, and I talked to him for quite a while. Very, very cool. It's not like you need more power out of that thing. Dan Boyd, I prefer the sound of the 4.6 and 5.4 over the Coyote. Have you shouting at clouds says my state doesn't recognize international driver's licenses? No, of course, I know that. I'm just wondering if that's the same scam that I saw for the guy who had the thing that he showed to the cop. Frank White, I have a Viper too. We don't calculate fuel consumption. Yeah, always make sure we've got gas in it. That's all that matters. Dave Beeler, they used radial engines in World War II tanks. Yeah, I believe the Sherman had was it a Chrysler built radial engine in it? Real weird to jam something like that in a vehicle like that. Mark 324 aircraft in World War II had some serious power for the time. Oh yeah, aircraft engines. Think about that. Jay Klein, most countries accept a U.S. driver's license. Yeah, I've driven overseas a bunch of times with just an American, and I rented a car with it. So that's the thing. Locked on Law, did you find a turbine car? Oh, you mean for my next car? Yeah, no. We know where they all are. It's just finding one for sale and scraping up the millions of dollars necessary to buy it. That's the tricky part. Pajama Jean, do you like Corvettes? I'm not a big Corvette guy. I've never owned a Corvette. I've ridden in a few. But I do like the most recent iteration of the Corvette's my favorite. I actually like the new ones. But I'm not sure if I'd ever get one. So Mexican Specs is so a supercharged Viper can kill you twice as fast. Pretty much. That's it. Just keep in mind, my Viper doesn't have anti-lock brakes. So, you got that going for you. Yeah, Richard Cranium, I'd love to have a Chrysler turbine car, but no way I can afford it. Screech Owl, Jay Leno just put up a video about the Rockford Files car. And it's kind of funny when they do stories like that because we all remember that Rockford drove, was it a Formula Firebird? A little unusual, not quite as cool as the Trans Am, but then again, I guess they wanted to downplay it a little bit. So, Marianne K. Cavusi says Corvettes are made in Kentucky. Yes, I believe it's Bowling Green. Patrick O'Boyle, enjoy your podcast. Please continue. Thank you. I'll try. Valerian, I prefer trucks or a Blazer. Love driving a truck, and it's great in the snow. When you're driving an F-250 with racks and boxes, people can get out of your way. My brother had a 1976 Blazer, black, 4-speed. I think it just had a small block Chevy in it, but it had the lock-unlock hubs in the front. And we took that thing out, and it was amazing where that thing would go. Very, very, very cool vehicle. He had it for a while, then he sold it. And I actually bumped into the guy who bought it from him. And I walked up, I'm like, I know this truck. Guy's like, yeah, I bought it from some guy. And I'm like, yeah, that's my brother Dave. Mexican Spec, you have to be a driver to drive a Viper, not a poser. I stayed away from them from the start when I saw two at the salvage auction broken in half. I've seen a bunch of them popping up recently. I'm on a Facebook group of people in America who like Vipers. And every now and then one shows up and it's just bent. And it's fiberglass, so it bends real badly. And it'll be like, Viper has been in an accident. They want $40,000 for it. It's like, what? So. Mr. Smithers, since we're on the topic of cars, what's your top movie or TV show vehicle or two? It's hard to say. I like a bunch of them, but so Kurt's Corner. I have a 1992 Dodge Ram Cummins W350 dually 4x4. Get compliments whenever I take it out. Daniel Kester, the double Wasp, put out 2,500 horsepower. First used in the P-47 Thunderbolt. The Thunderbolt was quite we call that a robust airplane. That thing could take a lot of abuse. Tim Hanley, my first vehicle was a 1978 Honda XL 175. Didn't have a license. So I got my learner's permit for 50 cents. That was all that was required for me to ride on the road by myself. Yeah, I think nowadays in some states, you got to take a class and get a special endorsement. In the old days, it wasn't that complicated. You still needed to get the endorsement technically. Although I've known a lot of people who've been pulled over by a cop and they don't have the endorsement. The cop just goes, look, dude, get the endorsement. So Kentucky Buckeye says we visited the Corvette Museum about a week before the floor fell into the sinkhole. Talk about a crazy story. I saw a documentary about that. Apparently, they've got all the cars out, and I think they've got it all fixed now. But who'd have thought you're building a building on top of a sinkhole and you wouldn't know it? But Jay Klein, my grandfather drove Firebirds in the early 70s to the mid 80s. He ordered them with a V8, but no badging or rear spoiler. Yeah, and that's the thing is oftentimes you can delete stuff like that. I mean, I've seen like a Dodge 69 Dodge Charger with a stripe delete. And the stripe's the coolest part of the design, but for some odd reason, the guy goes, I don't like this look of the stripe. So like my Viper does not have a stripe on it. And I don't mind that. I actually like it better without the stripe because the stripe would have been silver. So, Dan Boyd says 429 likes like the Cobra Jet, but we're at 435 now. Don Jackson, Gone in 60 Seconds is a great car movie. I assume you mean the first one and not the remake. Marian K. Kavusi, happy holidays and New Year. And to you, my friend, as well. Thank you very much. AC Moreland, what is your cocktail of choice? This is Gatorade. I don't drink. For those of you who don't know, I drink alcohol very rarely. I actually went to England in November, spent a week over there, was taken to pubs on 2 different occasions. One night I had 1 beer. The other night I had 2. So in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, I've had 3 beers. But I was also not driving. I was a passenger. JF Dashley. Hi, Mr. Lehto. Hi, JF Dashley. Although it could be JFD Ashley, so we don't know these things. Scott Summers, I hope that museum had an excellent insurance policy. I believe, isn't that museum owned by General Motors? Like, isn't it a GM facility? In that case, I wonder, they might be self-insured. But you never know. You never know. Johnny Z. Fradley at a 96 GTS, it only came blue with white stripes. But couldn't you delete the stripes when you ordered it? Because I know in later years you could do stripe deletes. So, Wizard of O. Have you ever watched the movie Class Action with Gene Hackman? Of course I have. It involves an attorney representing a traumatized accident victim. It's a little bit over the top in the sense of some of the legal stuff, but I actually thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. I like that movie. I've seen it a few times. Steve G. Hey, Steve and everyone. I just got here. Merry. Randall Munson, Happy Yule, and Merry Solstice, because the solstice was just a couple days ago. Guitar Talk Universe, hey, and Merry Christmas from Louisville, Kentucky. Or Louisville, not Louisville. Carl's Corner next week, January 1, 2025. Drunk Steve livestream. I've said this before. If I can find a police officer who wants to come on a video with me and give me a breathalyzer, I will down vodka shots just to see, so we can demonstrate what it looks like when somebody gets to 0.05, 0.07, 0.09. But I know you can buy handheld breathalyzers, but I'm not sure how accurate they are. And I'm hoping that I get somebody with access to a professional grade PBT thing, but Haven't made that work yet. It's something I want to work on. So Bob Loblaw says the Camaro was rated the #1 car that if you owned one, you would never buy another one by Consumers Report. Second was the Citation X body. The X cars. Oh boy. The sad part is the Camaros went through a bunch of different. Hello. Who put that there? The Camaros went through a bunch of different iterations. My brother had an SS 396 Camaro, and that thing was ungodly fast. But it was a second generation. It wasn't the small one. It was a slightly bigger one. And then, of course, in the late 70s and early 80s, they just hung all kinds of body modifications on it and smogged it out and called it a sports car. So Padre, people are demanding that Ford dealers remove the $1,800 graphics package from the Raptor R. You'd think that you could special order it and just delete it and say if you don't want to remove it, I don't want to buy it. But Robert Nelson, thanks for all you do. I know it's not easy; it's a lot of work. So thanks. Define work. No, I'm just kidding. Dave Bueller, I like the movie The Verdict with Paul Newman. I like the movie also. It's a little old fashioned, and there's a couple things about it that are kind of. I think they had to do it for Hollywood. They simplified a few things, but I liked the movie a lot. But like for instance, there's a scene in the movie where he's offered something to settle a case, and he rejects it without talking to his client. And then his client finds out that they rejected the offer from the other side. Neither of which could happen in real life without somebody getting in a lot of trouble. But of course, he's portraying a drunk attorney who's a bit of a screw up. So I guess that might play into that. But The Verdict is very good. I like The Verdict a lot. Offensively normal. I've heard the thing about saying watch your P's and Q's coming from pubs. Yeah, but it also has to do with handwriting because lowercase p and an upper lowercase q look very similar, but you never know. Scooby Style Creations say that police grade breathalyzers are not that accurate. Well, they're actually fairly accurate, but if you look at a data master at the police station and the PBT at the roadside, they're almost always very, very close because I've handled quite a few cases involving that in my career, and I have. But it would be enough to do a video, right? So Doug Jones, didn't Johnny Fever get faster the more he drank? And somebody else mentioned Johnny Fever drinking on the air. Sometimes I listen to myself. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that too. Mike Bundy, for you, IJ, and everything y'all do. Or it's the vodka fund. It's like the human fund. I was kidding. I thank you very much. I do appreciate that. BR549OU812. I have a 95 Escort wagon and a 2000 Saturn LW wagon. Saturns. I know people like Saturn and the idea of Saturn, but the Saturn cars, I've told the story before. I test drove one with a salesman next to me. Was driving down Maple Road in Troy. Literally, I turned him and said, "Do they all do this?" And he goes, "Yes." I hadn't said what I thought they were doing, but it was rattling. It was rattling like a shopping cart, and it's like this is the one we're test driving it down the road. It was poorly assembled. Antonina popping in quick to wish you a Merry Christmas. Silver Mountain with the warm weather coming in and snow melting. I might take the metal detector out one more time. Question is the ground frozen where you are? Because you can go out on a warm day and the snow's melting, but the ground is still too hard to dig. Johnny Z. Bradley says you should compare breathalyzer versus actual blood test. You mean have somebody in your drawing blood and sending it to it? It would make it too complicated. We got to send the blood to a lab. I want to do a video that I can actually just edit and put up, you know? Oh, boy. Ha! Merry Christmas from Southern California. Oh. Silver Mountain says it's not frozen under the snow. That's good. Todd says, Merry Christmas all. I have an O2 Explorer Sport Track. It's like a pickup, only smaller. Yeah, I know what that is. And it's probably got a very similar drivetrain to the one in mine. So, Rob Namowitz, it's not frozen in Michigan yet? I'd be curious about that because we've had freezing temperatures now for quite some time. So, Valerie Yance says, find us a cop. I want to see that. Oh. Sometimes I listen to myself, says in high school, a friend baked his valve covers in his kitchen oven. Everything he baked afterwards tasted like spray paint. I thought you can get paint that you can just rattle can on that'll stick to an engine. Like it's designed to be in a high temperature atmosphere or environment, but maybe not. Who knows? Old Jarhead, I'm on the Rifle River. Ground is frozen and 5 inches of snow for now. Rifle River, of course, is a great canoeing destination. There's various canoe liveries where you can rent a canoe on the Rifle River. Know the area well. Rob Namowitz, Southeast Michigan. Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, Merry Christmas. It's so warm the black bears are out of hibernation. Can you imagine? Like, hey, it's too warm. We're not going to hibernate just yet. I seem to recall a story not too long ago where somebody found a bear hibernating underneath their front porch, but it wasn't like even covered. They looked at this bear underneath there. Like it got bored and just said, I'm not going to look for anything. It got lazy. I'm not going to look for anything more complicated than this. I'll just duck under here for a couple months. JJ says there's a Ford Explorer EV in England. Have not seen that. Floyd's Garage with Rust-Oleum brush on works good on an engine. Marian K. Cavusi says, I know somebody in Michigan. Can I have them? I'm guessing email? You mean somebody in Michigan who could do the breathalyzer thing? Yes, have them email me. Or you, however it works. And we'll use this email address if you can. It's one I just typed in there. Steve@LehtoSlaw.com or Steve@LehtoSlaw.com. Bobby, Merry Christmas from OKC. Okay. Doug Jones, how much snow there? We've got about 8 inches in Markham, Ontario. I'm guessing 1 inch. I did have the snowblower out earlier this week because it was 2 inches, but it's kind of sunk down now. So. Johnny Quest, with the help from Williams International and a China carbon fiber body, maybe the Batmobile guy could build you a turbine car. Turbines up to speed. T-Nun, my kids are still sleeping now. That's a Christmas present. Mr. FNK or just MRFNK, happy Christmas. Jay Klein, 46 and raining in Cincinnati, not supposed to get below freezing until next Wednesday. Yeah, I've driven from Michigan down south during the wintertime. I remember driving along and all of a sudden the snow's gone. It's just like there's just a line. The snow goes right there. I'm sure that line moves, of course, but I remember just it was here a second ago. Now it's gone. Nathan Carver's got a good solid 5 inches on the ground in Bangor area of Maine. Art S. Merry Christmas, Steve. Marian K. Cavusi says, thank you. I'll call them on Friday. See, the problem is I got to do this in my studio because I don't want to go someplace, get drunk, and then drive home. And I don't want to spend 8 hours sleeping something off to get home. Oh, Jay Klein said that line is usually about I-70. I drove west one time. Is it what's the is it 95 that cuts across the Great Plains and so on? And I drove that one time in the wintertime. It was bad. It's ugly. So Mike Bundy says Stockholm is snow free. Will it remain that way, or is it unusual for this time of the year? Daniel Kester asks, has everyone clicked on the like? Well, mathematically, I'd have to guess the answer to that is no. R. Herman, Merry Christmas. Steve, Merry Christmas. Everyone from Central Kentucky, 53 degrees and cloudy. Roy, thank you. David Benner, Banger, say Merry Christmas to my retired Banger Maine school teacher. I assumed that was going to be a dirty joke. Like there was a man from Nantucket. You know, it can only go so many different ways. Huh, hang on a second. What am I thinking about? Oh boy. Get rid of that. Get that. Get that. Get that. What is the road I'm thinking of? Oh, I'm thinking of 80. I think it's 80 through Omaha. Yeah, I-80. That's the one. That's the one. Drove that late December, early January, when there was snow falling really, really hard and snow like this deep on the highway. And trucks were just zooming through it like it was nothing. And I'm in this little car going, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Fred Blowers, I click on the like button the second every video starts. I appreciate that. It's good for the algorithm. The algorithm. Oh, boy. Nathan Carver, Banger. I hardly even know her. NS Geek, has your sense of humor ever gotten you in trouble with a judge that had none? No, because you shift into a different mindset when you're in court, and you generally don't crack jokes unless they're literally G-rated and appropriate, and you're certain that everyone who hears it will appreciate it. And you'd be surprised. I've seen people say things in court where, and you're like, I can't believe they did that. So, hey, Stanley Gustafson wants to point out that the Ferris State Bulldogs football team won their third Division II national championship this past Saturday, third in the last 4 years. Ferris State, of course, named after a former governor of the state of Michigan named Ferris. T Nuns says, my car is in the lake. I told insurance I hit a fish. Will that work? Or you could tell them that the car was there and the lake arrived later, so it's actually a flood. I don't know. Ember Miss 69, Merry Christmas to you, Steve, and everyone in the chat. Thank you for the surprise live stream. Just checking in. And Tim Hanley says, no jokes in court. Yeah, that's pretty much the mindset. I mean, I've seen some judges, I don't think they have a sense of humor in real life. Like if they walk out of the courtroom, they don't laugh. So CH2 Action News says, is laundering money through super chats detectable? Why don't you launder a whole bunch right now and I'll tell you later. No. Ha asks, so Night Court wasn't supposed to be funny? Oh, no, it was funny. It was just science fiction. Rob Norris, what's your favorite college mascot? Oh, my gosh. I'm going to feel bad about this because I forgot the name of the school, but their mascot is the Keel Haulers. Somebody look that up. I have their shirt. It's one of the shirts I wear in my rotation. The Keel Haulers. It's the only mascot that has a name after a form of torture, which I'm surprised there's even one. Brett7284 says I'm 45 minutes behind, but it was the do self-checkouts encourage theft video that started me watching your videos. Yeah, back when I used to actually ask questions in my titles. Sully says can't get enough of your content, learn so much. Thank you. T-Nun will give 50 cents to $1. I'd buy that for $1, which, by the way, is a reference to RoboCop, if you didn't know that. Ember Miss 69 on a different note. How many calls about refinancing our new vehicle or maybe even a mortgage have you gotten lately? No, they've stopped now. So that's good. So Soul Boost says of all the stories you've told over the years, the one that sticks out the best is about your opposing counsel and the driver's license. And what's funny is people have accused me of making up stories. This happened at a deposition. My client's name was Bill. I don't think he probably wouldn't even mind if I told you his last name, but his name was Bill. It was a lawsuit involving the sale of an automobile, and the attorney who represented the seller was taking my client's deposition at my office on Northwestern Highway in Farmington Hills, and asked my client, "What's your name? What do you do for a living? Do you have a driver's license?" "Yes." "Can I see it?" He said, "I don't have it on me." He said, "I don't have it on me." She's like, "Well, did you drive here today?" "Yes." "Do you have a driver's license?" "Yes." "Do you bring it everywhere you drive?" "Yes." "Let me see it." "I don't have it on me." And even the court reporter's looking at me like his driver's license was in the car. It was in his glove box. You know? And I don't know exactly how it was phrased, but we were going around like that for too long. And finally, she looked at me kind of like, "I think your client's being difficult here." And I looked at my client and go, "Do you want me to tell her or do you want to tell her?" It's in my car. Oh, boy. Jim Aragon, the keel haulers are California Maritime Academy, my alma mater. Are you the one who sent me the shirt? Somebody sent me the shirt who went there. But the keel haulers, yeah, that's it's the greatest mascot ever. I mean, you got your Michigan Wolverines, you got your Michigan State Spartans, animals and Spartans and Trojans, these, those, but the keel haulers. Oh, boy. Stormtrooper 88 says, "I'm in a wheelchair and I have 2 cameras on my chair." You've got dash cams on your chair? That's pretty cool. Very, very advanced. Blah, blah, blah. Does the PayPal Honey affect you? Not that I'm aware of, because number one, I've never used it, so it never ripped me off. But number two, I don't do the thing with affiliate links that people click to indicate how you got there, because my things, when you click on them, it asks you to type in a code. So it wouldn't hijack that. So I don't think it's affected me, but with my luck, you never know. Brenda B says, "Cheers." Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do. Does your dog bite? No, but that's not my dog. Offensively normal, the Detroit Mud Hens. You mean the Toledo Mud Hens? I mean, they're a farm team for Detroit. But Jim Aragon, no, I didn't send the shirt. So there's at least 2 people out there who've watched my show who know about the keel haulers. Roy Ordway says the North Central Michigan Community College of Petoskey has the Fighting Ferrets. Do they really? How did I not know that? The Fighting Ferrets. Ferrets are vicious little creatures. No, actually, I know somebody's got a pet ferret. Dan Boyd, I think you need to call a 1/16th scale guy to come detail the Viper. and the Daytona. They're looking dusty. The question is, do I need to bring in a guy who's this big so he can clean them? Because that way he'd be in the correct ratio to them. Oh, boy. Mr. Dolly 6500 says Richland High School mascot is the mushroom cloud, and they're called the Bombers. The Bombers. Carlo Sario says Merry Christmas from North Karelia, Finland. Hava Yolua. David K says Trojans. What? A school's mascot is a condom? I'm sure they get that all the time. AMZ, my dog would bite Santa Claus and he'd wind up on the naughty list. Oh, yeah. Tim Hanley says, yeah, the UCal Santa Barbara's got the banana slugs. The banana slugs. Steve Cole, Merry Christmas from one Steve to another. Great to see you again. Thank you for checking in, my friend. Sometimes I listen to myself, the University of Central Missouri, the Mules and the Jennies. The Mules and the Jennies. Retired Butcher Boy. Hi, Stephen Gang. Merry Christmas from Lincoln, North California. Heading to Chico today. Chico. Jonathan Revels. Merry Christmas, everyone. David Benner, the Fighting Pacifists. Clint Eastwood. Merry Christmas, Steve. Merry Christmas, Clint. I love your work. Mr. Firestop 41. Happy holidays from the Copper Country. Thank you for checking in. That's the home of my ancestors. Not the real ancestors way back, just a generation or two. My grandparents and so on. Teen says, I got to wake up the kids so I can open up my presents. Ha, my middle school is the Bancroft Beavers. I've seen a few named Beavers. I've seen that used a few times. Dan Boyd said, I thought a Jenny is a mule. Yeah, I think it's a reference to whether the mule is a male or a female. But I could be wrong. AMZ is a school near me that has a Kewpie pie, a Kewpie doll for a mascot. BK, Merry Christmas from Australia, which I assume means you guys are already done with Christmas, right? John Skeens, Merry Christmas, Steve. Love your vids. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. TB, the American Dream Chaser, Merry Christmas from Atlanta. Who else has to work tonight? David Benner, go on, make my Christmas, Clint Eastwood. Tina, on any critters in your car today? No, I have not seen any critters near my cars lately. I'm very happy about that. David Forstner, check in from Duluth, Minnesota, way up there. Not far from Lake Superior. David Forrest checking out. Thank you very much. Ram 50 V8 says Jenny's a female, Jack is a male. Yep. Doug Jones says many, many years ago in Canada, where I am, school dance had live bands. Little do you know, a lot of the bands turned out to be successful. But who were they? Like Bachman Turner Overdrive or The Who? Or the Guess Who, I guess, in Canada? 5153 Flash, have you ever seen natural copper in the woods? You mean native copper? Yeah. You can find native copper in the UP all the time. Float copper is the stuff you find laying on the surface. CCH, wow, I catch 2 lives in a row from Southern California. Stormtrooper 88 been hit twice by Lime scooters screaming on the sidewalk. I see piles of those things whenever I go to Detroit, but I never seem to be riding them. Kurt's Corner, what is your next book project? I'm currently working on an update to the Turbine Cars book to tell the story about Jay Leno's car. I will let you know more when I know more, but that's what I'm working on right now. Art S, do you have a real Christmas tree? No. You set up an aluminum tree. See, you could just put the aluminum pole and make it a Festivus pole without even using the rest of it. as long as the strength to weight ratio is good. STP World, can you do audiobooks of your books? I've only got one book out on audiobook. I didn't do it myself. Somebody else did. American Murder Houses is available in audiobook. I'm not sure how big the market is. So Ram 50 V8. Saw a nice history video of the Marquette Ore loading docks. Real cool. Yeah, they're very cool. 5153 Flash. I found a piece of float copper while metal detecting. It was as big as a car. Did you leave it there or did you take it? I mean, copper's got some value. People occasionally find big things like the size of like cars, and they a lot of times they'll drag them out and just put them on display someplace. But the largest piece of float copper or of native copper they found like that is on display at a mineral museum in Houghton, Michigan. It's outside. It's so big. And it's gigantic. And they actually found it out in Lake Superior. Divers found it. And they located it like, oh my gosh, this is a piece of copper. Like, it's huge. And they had to go out with a barge and put straps around it, lift it with a crane. And so it was a whole process. But yeah, it's really cool to find copies, find it laying around on the ground. Randall Munson, placer copper. Copper in copper mines was ore, which was in the rock, and they grind the rock up, and then they would flush it with chemicals and get the copper out of it. And the copper then would be smelted and turned into ingots. But you can find chunks of pure copper laying around on the ground in the Keweenaw Peninsula of Michigan. Joni Grin, Merry Christmas, Steve, and everyone else. MH08, is it legal to take possession of that copper? It depends on who owns the land. And there might be a mineral rights question involved too. David Benner says copper is $4.10 a pound today. Yeah, copper is unusual because by the pound, it's nowhere near silver or gold, but it's more than iron, iron ore and that kind of thing. So. Blah, blah, blah says, I remember some spoof about a copper clapper caper. I have to imagine the Batman television show could do that. 5153 Flash, I told the landowner he didn't believe me. It was in mid-Michigan. You mean in the lower peninsula? That'd be very unusual. Very unusual. Like the Ontonagon boulder was a chunk of copper they found up near Ontonagon, obviously. But that was in the UP. And I'm not aware of any large chunks of copper being found in the lower peninsula. So sometimes I listen to myself. I had a Google headline today that there is a wheat penny in circulation worth $2.2 billion. No one's paying that. No, there's not. Some of those headlines are created by like a cross between artificial intelligence and like just a spam generator. I've seen headlines that are so absurd that it's like, I don't think so. Randall Munson silver's $30 an ounce. Tends to hover between there and like $50-$60. Depends. Doug Jones, Bachman Turner, and Lighthouse. Lighthouse had the song Pretty Lady. Before we go off on another tangent about songs. 5153 Flash. Yes, it was definitely copper. I always wondered about this. Do you still know where it is? Let's go back and work on a deal to get it. The Hamburglar, does your metal detector work off magnetism or radio attenuation? Copper isn't magnetic. Oh, no, metal detectors don't go off of magnetism. Modern metal detectors are amazing because they can detect all kinds of different metals, but they can also tell you what the metal is, how deep it is. Look them up. It's astounding what they've done with them in the last 20 years. Stormtrooper 88, I saw the news. A bunch of people in China bought gold bars that ended up being fake. There is a lot of that stuff going on. You can actually find all kinds of counterfeit coins on the internet also, like on eBay and stuff. It's real scary buying bullion or coins or anything like that because there's so much fake stuff out there that it's dangerous. Art S says, interesting way of determining devaluation of the dollar is up until 1933, an ounce of gold was $20, i.e. a $20 gold piece. Now an ounce of gold is about $2,600. And it also shows you the inflation of the price of gold. Oh. Yeah, Nicholas George says, have you heard of established titles? That was a scam. Yes, and that's what's sad about that is I had some very, very respectable video creators I followed who fell for it. And they eventually came out and very quietly said, well, it's a novelty. We never really said it was real. But they were making it sound like it was real. And it was the whole thing that you send some money in and they would declare you a lord or a lady because they owned a little sliver of land and therefore you were actually Lord so and so or Lady so and so. It was made up. It was just nonsense. So anyways. Todd Boothby says, don't buy alchemical gold. Are you talking about that made by alchemy? What a lot of people don't know is that alchemy, there was a time when people thought that alchemy was so real that England outlawed it. I'm not making that up. There was a time when there was a law on the books in England. It was illegal to transmute lead into gold. And if you did so, you'd get in trouble with the law. Theodore Becker, happy Festivus for the rest of us. Green Dragon says, I bought copper cables from Amazon and a magnet sticks to it. Yeah, I suspect there might be something going on there. Tim Hanley says, don't forget that your hard drive with Bitcoins on it could get buried in a landfill, especially if your girlfriend threw it there. And then the debate is whether or not you told her to. Opinion read, how would they prove transmutation? Well, presumably a witness would say, I saw him turning lead into gold. She turned me into a newt. Theodore Becker. Yes, it was in the time of Sir Isaac Newton. Although self-proclaimed alchemist, I'm not sure how much of that he publicly spoke about versus how much he wrote about that was discovered later in his writings. But dime bag coins, I can turn a big pile of money into a little pile. Am I an alchemist? Floyd's Garage says Morgan silver dollars are faked. Nowadays, they fake everything. That's the biggest problem. Opinion rep. Well, I got better. Oh, boy. Stormtroopers' copper-coated aluminum wire was banned in the U.S. after houses started burning down. Hey, Dimebag Coins, hope you enjoyed some of the songs. Yeah, Dimebag, I asked him to send me the link to when he covered the song Talk to You Later by the Tubes, and he covered it on his channel. I watched the video, and it's very, very good. I can't sing, so I admire anybody who can. Turks won. She blinded me with science. I saw Thomas Dolby this past year at the Meadowbrook Theater in Michigan, and he did a song called One of Our Submarines, which I was so happy because he did a short set. There's like 7 or 8 bands on the bill. And he did One of Our Submarines, which is my favorite song by him. And I love it when I go see a band and not only do they do the songs they should do, but they do what I like. And I'm like, yes, yes. Tim Nossum, I'm pretty sure if I was an alchemist, only I would know. Yeah, that's the kind of thing you probably want to keep to yourself. When the mafia finds out that you can turn like car batteries into gold, they might want to put you someplace and have you do that like all day long. Dan Boyd, Lord and Lady Douchebag. There's a Saturday Night Live skit where people are coming in being introduced, and they're all Lord Sandwich, and he's making a sandwich over there. 55 Sedell, do you like bands like Black Sabbath, King's X, and Pantera? I don't know much about King's X or Pantera. I like Ozzy though, so I like some of the Black Sabbath stuff, and I like a lot of his solo stuff. What's sad is Ozzy Osbourne's reputation precedes him to the point where most people just think he's this like devil worshiping weirdo, and you listen to his music and you realize there's a lot more going on there. Although, quite frankly, I think the drugs have taken their toll. Janice Ellery is checking in from Fort Lauderdale. Merry Christmas, everyone. Dan Boyd, I didn't think you'd call that one out. Black Sabbath is good music. Padre, why have psychics not won the lottery? They'll tell you because they're not allowed to. What? Is there like the psychic police? Like, Ember Mist, did you and the pups ever bark at the moon? I am not making this up. Both of my dogs, Milo and Wolfie, when I had them, would bark at the moon and things in the air. So if an airplane flew overhead, they'd both be running around the backyard barking at it. And I've never known dogs to do that as much as these guys did. And I talked to other people who owned Shelties, and they go, yeah, Shelties, for some odd reason, they don't care about stuff on the ground so much. I mean, sometimes they did. But an airplane flying overhead, and I remember going out on a full moon, and Wolfie's like, and you see the full moon start barking at it. And so the next Milo's barking at it. So it happens. Wayne Huber had a dog who watched cartoons on TV. You know, it's funny because my dogs didn't care about television, except remember Singular had the commercial with that little orange spinning thing. It looked like a jack, like a toy jack in the game of jacks, and it spin on the screen. That would get their attention. But other than that, it didn't matter. There'd be a show on TV about dogs, they wouldn't watch it. So. Dave Beeler, my collie scans the trees for squirrels. Oh yeah, my dog's squirrels and rabbits. Oh, Wolfie had a rabbit that was his antagonist for many years, but he never caught it. But Padre had a Jack Russell Terrier that woke me up barking at a rock. Martin Luther King Jr., I don't know the answer to the question, but if multiple people each hold a key in a Bitcoin multi-sig setup, who legally has titled the coins if none of them has enough keys to move the coins themselves? Well, maybe it's joint to several. I don't know. That's the kind of thing that's going to take a court to straighten out if it ever becomes a problem. The Hamburglar, so you had a potential drone hunting dog. Yes. I didn't think about that before. Dan Boyd, we need a show about lawyer dogs. But would they speak? And would they handle cases for humans or you know? Ram 50 V8 claims his cats love watching Steve. Betty Boop, Wolfie and the possum story. I had a possum that lived near my house, and Milo and Wolfie were both on. They were trained with an invisible fence, but they didn't wear the collars anymore. They don't need to after a little while. And so they'd run right up the edge of the grass and bark at something. And it could be a motorcycle or a car or whatever. And one day I let Wolfie out, and he's at the curb barking like crazy at something. And I go out there, and there's a possum laying on its back with a little X's over its eyes like it's dead. And it's like a foot from Wolfie, but he won't step onto the cement because he won't do that. And the possum thinks he's cornered, so he's laying there like that. And I go walking over to the possum, and I look at it, and it doesn't look like opens up one eye, you know. And I'm like, dude, just keep walking. He's not going to hurt you as long as you go that direction. And I had to kind of like push him with my foot, and he finally got up. He's like, and he walked away. He just waddles off. But that playing possum thing is something they actually do, and apparently it works. Ari-Pekka Pusanen says, Lehto is Finnish name? Yes. Finland? Yes, from Finland. All 8 of my great-grandparents came from Finland. And when one of them came over, the full last name was Johan Lehto. But it got shortened somewhere along the line. So Art S. Dachshunds are great for randomly barking intensely at nothing. I got a brother who's got dachshunds. He's got one, but he's had a bunch of them over the years. So Dimebag Coins, Edmonton, Canada here. Thank you for checking in. Crystal Lynn, Dawn Day Chief says, I think it was Ozzy who also bit the head off a bat during his show. That's the story. And it's evolved over the years. But apparently somebody threw it on stage, and he says later that he didn't realize that it was real. DePaul said, I remember Steve posted photos of viewers and their pets watching the channel. That was a long time ago. It's probably one of the videos I took down. No Hypothesis says, this is great. I was lonely, but now I'm not. Live streaming is great. Yet the problem is, we've been doing this for 2 hours. Normally I quit at 2 hours. Ram50V8 says, I submitted one of those pictures. Codemeister Beats, my Malamute would not be phased by playing dead. That's the interesting thing, is whether or not, because I suspect that if a dog were to run up and bite the possum would stop playing dead. And the last thing you want to do is have a possum bite your dog. So that might get ugly. Joe James, Steve is one of those YouTubers that if I met in person, I'd be baffled that he didn't recognize me for a minute. What's funny is I've met people in public before who looked at me and couldn't place where they knew me from. And I was, speaking of garage sales, I was at a garage sale about 6 months ago, and I knew the person having the garage sale. So I'm talking to the garage sale host, and there's a guy looking at me, and I recognize the look now. And he goes, do I know you? And I look at him and I go, yes. And he goes, where from? And I go, you don't remember? And now I'm messing with him, but he's like, seriously, where'd you go to school? I go, it's not school. We didn't know each other in school? I go, no. Did we work together? No. And he's like, I know this. But because I implied that I knew him first, it messed with his head. And I go, YouTube. He's like, that's it. Oh my God, I watch all your videos. Codemeister Beats on the plus side, possums don't carry rabies. That's good. That's good. You still don't want your animals getting bitten by other wild animals, just in case, you know. Oh, Betty Boop, did you buy drum sets for your nephew's Christmas gifts? You only buy drums for the children of people you don't like, unless you actually are trying to encourage somebody who's got a drumming instinct. So, Kryptonic HD says, the only creator Honey could never get to, Steve Lehto, the man, the myth, the legend. And Dan Love points out the possums do eat ticks. So there you go. And Daniel Kester, I submitted a photo with me, my cat, on my stool, watching Steve. So, Dimebag Coin says, my mom died and left me a down payment on a house so long as I moved to a cheaper place. So now I have my own house, but I'm all alone. No one but my family here, no other relations. So, well, hang in there, my friend. And Art S. Possums don't carry rabies, they carry babies. Oh, boy. Well, anyway, we've been doing this for a little over 2 hours. It is Christmas Day. I don't want to ruin your Christmas Day anymore than I already have. But we're going to wrap it up now. But this was a primary for a couple of reasons. One is I had this time between events of my own life. But number two, I wanted to test out the microphone. I'll show you, for those who are curious, because it obviously did work. but there's a Shure thing right there, and that allows you to run a headphone, 0 latency, and the microphone into the computer. And the computer recognizes this now as a microphone and takes it in priority over the one that's in the built-in camera up there. So we got that working for us. So live streams are good from now on out. I will talk to you again soon, most likely on Sunday. Until then, behave yourself. Bye-bye.